the Awesemo.com Monday morning quarterback show. Dave Loughran, Josh Engleman, Adam Scherer, taking a look at everything that went down from Sunday, week 7 slate of games. And let me tell you, for Awesemo, it was a pretty wild one in the Millie Maker. Adam, what a wild finish at the 1 and 2 spots in the DraftKings Millie Maker yesterday. This is not something you see every day or maybe even every decade.
Yeah, pretty crazy having two guys at the top of the Millie Maker. Pretty awesome to see. Really happy to see, obviously people that subscribe to the site do well. Normally I'm really jealous of people that win the Millie Maker, obviously, and feel a little bit bitter towards them, but not the case last night.
No, not at all. Josh, Awesemo avatars at 1 and 2 with scores of 279 and 276.7.
Yeah, it's a decent way to wake up in the morning. Neil gets $1 million and we get an Awesemo logo at the top of the biggest contest in the industry. It's fun to see.
The person in second, Solo Bullet, too.
Yeah, do we know who that is?
I'm not sure.
Me neither. I know he has an Awesemo logo, which is, beautiful. ISM down, 150,000, 276 points. Congrats to both of you guys. I see Neil, and we're assuming it's NC Orfield, 8K, because Adam, you said his last name was Orfield.
According to Twitter, yeah.
I see him at the top of tournaments a lot. And, he finally got it. Congrats. That's awesome. Let's see how they did it. We're happy to have you guys with us. As always, hit that thumbs up if you're just walking in the door. And make sure to hit the subscribe if you haven't done so yet. No reason not to. And if you hate it, all you got to do is simply click unsubscribe at any time that it no longer fits your needs. But it's very helpful, especially given the notification bell will tell you always when we have new content dropping next. So hit that subscribe. It helps you and it helps us as well. So your support is appreciated as always. Josh, the Millie Maker is what we're going to go over today just because, why would we not with two Awesemo guys at the top of it? Usually we do the $500,000 slant, but let's go over some lineups.
Yeah, the most interesting piece of all of this, he had Todd Gurley, which, probably gave him $1 million accidentally. Can't beat it.
That's so great. Obviously the play is fine. Whatever, it's a running back getting a bunch of goal line carries. But whenever you win a tournament, I think that it's kind of funny to go back and think about all the things that went your way, because there's so many times that things obviously go against you and you remember those. But you just won $1 million because the guy accidentally scored a touchdown. The defense was running around the field telling the refs he had scored. He was laying on the field upset that he scored, and you got $1 million. Congrats.
I tweeted that with narration because of how insane it was. That Adam, you've got the Lions defenders going
right.
It's absurd. Todd Gurley comes up, he tries to stop, falls into the goal line. The whole thing. Now, I'll be fair. It looked to some extent like maybe he just had too much momentum. But then I looked back. This wasn't a 3rd and short where they needed to get the first down and just run the clock out. This was a 1st and goal.
Yeah, I think it probably was. I mean, you see it a lot where your natural inclination just is to score. And he kind of realized the last second that he probably shouldn't do that. I don't know why it wasn't pointed out before the play not to score, but yeah.
I liked the idea of going running backs in that game, just in the event that Matthew Stafford continues his low passing volume, which we saw, and that maybe the Falcons aren't as good as they were last week after starting the season 0-5. So Todd Gurley might not have had the biggest game, but I understood the play. I understood the swift plays. And you even said the same thing, Adam, on the show that you and Josh did. Great show, 9 Eastern time, where hey, if you get this right, you're not only chopping off a lot of people that had this game's exposure in the passing game, which was a ton of them, you're not only getting it right in terms of predicting the game script, but you're also getting right the fact that everyone else was stacking the passing game. And that happened with Gurley, and someone won $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I personally, I don't think I played much, if any, Gurley, but it makes sense. That game had, 54, 55 total. I know it was one of the games that I, in my fantasy cruncher settings was trying to make sure I got at least some pieces of, but there were so many good plays on yesterday's slate, particularly at the wide receiver positions, you can't roster all the wide receivers from the high scoring games. So it makes a ton of sense to, in a lineup where you don't have the wide receivers from that particular high scoring game, why not use the running backs and hope the game breaks that way?
Josh, it's crazy too. You look at this lineup. By the way, Neil, phenomenal. I love this lineup. I absolutely love this lineup. And I'm not just saying that. Like hindsight, you look at this, he got Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Tyler Lockett, and Russell Wilson into this lineup. And it all came down to Harrison Bryant at the tight end position for the Cleveland Browns.
Plus a little bit of the football team, too. We're riding that monster chalk directly to...
Cowboys are so bad, man.
Truly atrocious. And then they brought in that guy from the stands to be the quarterback for the rest of the game. That's fun.
What was it, like DiNuccio or something? I don't know his name.
DiNucci,
yeah.
James Madison University. Football powerhouse.
Oh, boy. But Harrison Bryant, the guy had himself a game. At one point, he had 5 for 64 and 2 touchdowns. The rest of the team had 6 for 66 and no touchdowns. So.
How much money does Harrison Bryant make this year?
Probably less
than Neil.
This lineup, yeah.
Oh God, yeah. At less than Neil after Neil pays taxes on his million.
Taxes, who needs them?
He's probably making, what would you say, 400,000?
I don't know what the minimum is.
Yeah, neither do I.
But I would say that. I don't know what the minimum salary in the NFL is, but that would be my guess.
Oh wow, Harrison signed a 4-year, $4 million contract with the Browns. Never mind, including a $769,000 signing bonus, $769,000 guaranteed, an average annual salary of $1 million. Okay, well,
so that the $25,000 Tournament of Champions equity still pushes Neil ahead of Harrison Bryant.
Oh, that's right. That's right. By the way, how absurd is that? That hey, you won $1 million. Let's go ahead and give you free entry into it. And I am, maybe I'm just jealous, but let's just go ahead and throw you into another one where you can win another $1 million. Like, I'm just saying, if I was setting this up, and I know nobody cares, but I'm just going to tell you anyway, why not give second place tournament the entry to something like that? Because you just got shit on.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Yeah, I mean, you were the last person I thought was going to come on here and defend the pussification of America law. But giving Tournament of Champion tickets to second place is a little absurd.
Should everybody get one now? Fluffy's handing out participation ribbons.
That's literally the best thing you've ever said in all of our years doing shows. That was fantastic.
Be fair, that's a pretty low bar.
No, I just think, what do you call me? I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say at first, but I didn't want to go there.
I know. I'm going to shy away from that.
What were you going to say?
No.
Cowards.
I'm not. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. People are sensitive these days. And while I generally don't give a shit, we're here to talk sports, and I'll stay away from that. But look, either way, huge win. Harrison Bryant, which is just an absurd. Like, I get it. David Njoku was still in that offense. He scored as well. But Deontay Johnson was a guy I talked about a lot yesterday, Josh, just because sometimes you've got to jump on these guys when not a lot of people are doing so. 5% ownership on Deontay Johnson at 4,200. This is the guy who, before he got injured, was clearly the top receiver on this Pittsburgh Steelers team and still has a good pass quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger. And the Titans are coughing up 30-plus points every single week. So all in all, I just thought this was an awesome lineup.
Deontay Johnson, 15 targets yesterday. Whew, at 5% ownership. And
do you know he dropped a touchdown at the end of the first half?
I didn't.
He also got hurt at some point. I don't know how much time he missed. But.
Yeah. He would have had another touchdown, 40-yard touchdown, nonetheless.
Deontay Johnson, this slate, it ended up kind of being a wash because every popular play did well. But it was a really fun slate because there were so many good plays, and obviously that's why you saw such high scores, or at least part of the reason you saw such high scores. But like someone like Deontay Johnson being 5% owned, like on one hand, it's like, wow, that's crazy. He was 4,200 and he's 5% owned. But there were so many good plays that it was a really fun like slate for that reason. Because I don't think that he shouldn't have been 20% owned or something like that. There were just so many plays like him that you could make that it was really fun. And he was obviously a really good one himself.
Yeah. You're right though. That had a lot to do with it, Josh. And I think all of us said throughout the week that maybe ownership isn't going to be so crazy. Things changed though because Aaron Jones got ruled out. That obviously boosted Jamal Williams' ownership through the roof. Alvin Kamara was very popular, and we saw the cream rise to the top, right? Like towards the end of the week. But as Adam pointed out, there's no question that there were a lot of really good plays that on a lot of normal slates, Deontay Johnson being a perfect example, would have been super high owned or at least relatively popular. But my God, $4,200, 5% owned. You saw this with quite a Tyler Lockett was only 10% owned at $6,600.
I just pulled up all of the player exposures and stuff too, just looking over everything at the top. Since we did have some extreme chalk, Kamara was 50% owned in the Millie. Alex and Neil were both over that number.
Yeah, Neil had 63%.
Yeah, 45% Jamal Williams. He was over the field on Devontae Adams, which is obviously super helpful. Had a lot of digs, which didn't get there, but he set himself up really nicely with some of these high, 17% Lockett at 10% ownership. That's really nice when you get the two highest scorers and you're over the field in it. You're starting to give yourself additional chances at that perfect combination.
Yeah. And the crazy thing too is his highest owned tight end was Harrison Bryant.
Really?
I kid you not.
19%. Holy hell.
That's crazy. That takes some balls right there.
Goes there, Neil.
But I guess, this is actually, here's a good strategy conversation. Josh, you first and then then Adam, sorry. Is there more merit to doing something like that with how bad the tight end position has been lately? I know you had Kelsey and Waller and Kittle on this slate, and he had a decent amount of Kelsey and Waller. But you look at Neil's exposure, Logan Thomas, O'Shaughnessy, Olsen, a lot of really cheap guys. And of course, Harrison Bryant at the top was one of the cheapest at $2,500 minimum salary. He went with a lot of him, and it allowed him to get to Lockett, to Hopkins, to Adams, to Gurley, to Wilson.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to say negatively. Like on the surface, 20% at 3% feels like a tad high for that particular player. But if you're paying $2,500 for a tight end that is going to be involved, I mean, you're clearly looking for a little bit of touchdown luck. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's problematic ownership. Yeah, it makes at that salary point, I think it makes some sense.
And Odell Beckham did get hurt in the first quarter too, Adam, which who knows if that played into it. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I'll assume that, your number one target going down certainly makes somewhat of an impact. But
I assume you saw the news on him too, by the way.
What is it?
He's out.
ACL.
Oh, it is confirmed?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know it was confirmed. That is terrible, man.
That's really shitty for him.
Yeah. I get it. It's funny. Adam, check this out, though. So his exposure, Washington football team at, what did they call? Why is their price not showing up on here?
They were 2,500.
They were 25. Okay, thank you. Highest owned defense by a mile for Neil. By the way, if you guys are just tuning in, Neil won the Millie Maker with an Awesemo avatar, so we're going to have some fun talking about it. Second place with a single bullet, also an Awesemo avatar and an Awesemo member, ended up taking second place. So Harrison Bryant, 2,500, cheapest. That was his highest owned tight end. And then his second highest owned running back was Jamal Williams, who was also minimum salary at the running back position. So there's no doubt that he just went with, he had a number of guys at the top of his exposures at each position that were cheap, and then loaded up on some really expensive players, and it seemed to work out perfectly.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly fine approach. And you were talking about how much exposure he had going to Bryant. And so I pulled up mine kind of to see what I did. And I only had 2% Bryant, but I kind of took a similar approach to him where I did just grab like one cheap tight end that I thought was really underowned. In my case, it was Robert Tonyan, and it didn't work out. But I had like looking at my tight end exposure yesterday where the slate was really weak because not only was it weak in terms of there weren't that many good guys to play, but the good plays were all or mostly were getting ownership. Like Travis Kelce was getting a lot of ownership. Hunter Henry was getting a lot of ownership to the point where they were probably a little bit over-owned relative to their chances of success. So like my approach was I jammed Darren Waller in like 45% of my lineups at really low ownership. But then I also played a bunch of Tanyan where, where he went with Harrison Bryant. Bryant obviously was cheaper. You can afford to take those risks on cheap guys too, because like let's say Harrison Bryant doesn't score, but he just gets 4 for 56 and scores like 10 points. It's not the raw points aren't helping you win, but they're not really hurting you at 2,500 either, as long as the guys you pay up for go off. So it's something that Josh and I had talked about a little bit on the show yesterday morning. But going with cheap, like taking big stands on cheap players is generally going to be less risky than taking big stands on expensive players.
Right, that's a good point. Josh, ISM down, second place, single bullet. Take a look at what he did in this one and let's see how different it was than Neil's at the top. There's actually one really funny thing here when you look at the tight end position that we can get into.
The other Browns tight end?
Yeah.
David Njoku here for 10 points, but Kyler up top, Gio, Jamal Williams, Devontae Adams, Hopkins, Lockett. You know what you needed in that sort of section. Washington D, James Robinson, who went crazy at 2% ownership. But yeah, if that's not Njoku and it's Bryant.
Harrison Bryant.
He wins by like a mile.
A mile. I know this guy won a lot of money, and that's awesome. But there's no question that he went to bed last night thinking, oh my God, I got the wrong Cleveland tight end. And
$850,000 because of a coin flip at tight end, basically.
Yeah, and I paid $500 more for him. So, right. But still, it's awesome. One single bullet turning $10 into was it 20 yesterday or was 20. It 10? It was 20. Yeah, turning 20 into 150,000 is pretty remarkable. Trying to look, did he go with any correlation here? Okay, so he did. He went Murray, Hopkins, and Lockett.
Yep. And then getting Jamal Williams and Adams, I assume without Aaron Rodgers is not hugely owned in this contest?
I feel like it probably still is for one reason. One, Jamal Williams can catch passes, but two, the offense is so concentrated in Green Bay that you could have huge games from both of those guys because there's a pretty decent likelihood that those are the only ones doing anything.
I think, like we talked about that yesterday morning too, Josh and I, but I think that there probably still were a decent amount of lineups that had both. I think it was perfectly fine to play both. I think it probably was underowned, that combination though, just because so many people blindly use the same settings every week are going to say, if I don't have the quarterback, if I don't have Rodgers and I don't have Watson, I can only play one guy from the Packers. You're still going to get probably a lower percentage of Williams and Adams together than there really should have been.
36% of lineups that had Williams and Adams had Rodgers. So 64% of the lineups didn't.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
You're saying 64% that had Williams and Adams didn't have Rodgers?
Correct.
That's a lot. Yeah. Wow. But I'm not shocked by it. If you were doing Todd Gurley and Julio Jones or something like that, totally different story, right? And there's a ton of examples where it's different. But with this team, it's Robert Tonyan or what? Marquez Valdez-Scantling?
Yeah.
It's Adams and Williams for the most part. So.
Apparently Jay Sternberger.
Yeah.
That one was frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one that will get you for sure. Josh, did you know we have a promo where we're giving an Awesemo Plus Platinum weekly pass for only $10.31, $20 off the original price with the promo code PUMPKIN because Halloween's coming up and we feel like doing something nice?
I did know that. I do want to follow up on that because I asked Adam and I asked Greg on Live Before Lock, what are your thoughts on pumpkin in general?
Oh, I heard this and I was appalled. I was aghast at what you had to say.
Me?
I absolutely love pumpkin.
Oh my God.
I love pumpkin. I love pumpkin
now
pie.
I know why you were trying to hand out participation ribbons.
I don't get that, but I like pumpkin pie quite a bit. Throw some ice cream on it. Oh my God. How do you not like pumpkin pie?
Why don't you eat more pumpkin foods in like March and April?
Well, I think there are seasons.
Because you have to fucking grow pumpkins.
Right. The same reason, do you eat strawberries in December?
Probably, but I can't eat strawberries because I'm allergic.
You get the itch in the back of your throat?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I've kind of grown out of it, oddly enough.
Nope, mine's getting worse.
What about apples?
Nope, can't do it.
Me neither. But did you know
you cooked? I can. Yeah.
You can eat cooked apples.
Do you know why you have this, by the way?
It's a protein that breaks down upon being cooked.
It's a birch pollen allergy.
How about, I didn't know that, but is it? Look at that. Yeah, look at that. But
if you handle raw potatoes, do you get itchy?
No.
Okay,
but if I ate like a pear, if I ate a pear, I'd be in trouble.
It's a real bad experience.
And I'm fine. I'm not going to the hospital. I'm not going to the hospital. I'm just very uncomfortable.
It's a really big annoyance for like 25 minutes.
Yeah, your tongue on the back.
Yeah.
Trying to, it sucks.
Everything feels so, I just want to like scratch the inside of my mouth.
Yeah.
Oh.
But pumpkin's delicious.
No, you're just 100% wrong.
I remember Adam saying yesterday that he has no idea what a pumpkin spice latte is either.
I don't know what a latte is in general.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've never had one. I know the idea of what it is. I know you would get it at a coffee shop. I don't know like how it's different than anything else.
Where were we going with this price? Yeah. Use that promo code. Hey, look, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, you're going to win the millie or come in second place with a single bullet by signing up with us at Awesemo. But I got to admit, you have to admit that seeing that at the top of the biggest contest there is, well, I guess FanDuel's doing the $4 one, but still, one of the biggest contests there is, seeing 1 and 2 up there, has to have you at least a little bit curious.
Right.
The tools we have are awesome, man. And Alex Baker's still ranked number 1, and these are his tools that he uses and he puts out there for us to use as subscribers. So, Awesemo Plus Platinum NFL Weekly Pass, $10.31. You got till the 31st of October to take advantage of that. There's really no reason not to. Like I said, does it mean you're going to win the millie? Maybe. I don't know. Not necessarily. But become a better player, and you have the best tools out there. And I don't know, Josh, that's kind of all you can ask for.
Yeah, what else would you want? That's a pretty good deal, too, $10.31. You don't have to eat anything pumpkin if you do it either, which is a real benefit.
I'm going to eat a whole pumpkin pie on the stream next week.
I wouldn't even take a bite. Ugh. It's like eating glue.
What do you say we go to the chalk report here and see how chalk did from week 7?
Do it.
Kamara being 50 cent, by the way, I'm still shocked by that. Like I don't know. I'm still shocked by how high the ownership was.
It's just like, I mean, this is basically like his floor, right?
Yeah.
8 catches, 60 yards, 14 carries, 80 yards.
What's
he gonna do?
I'm not saying it was a bad move. Just saying there are so like Devontae Adams is the closest thing to guaranteed volume like running backs you can get that isn't a running back, if that makes sense.
Went nuts,
but he still has like 2 out of 4 games this year where he's done absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean,
like my point there just being that like he's still a lot more volatile than Alvin Kamara.
I hear you.
Yeah, come on. Cresting 50% in the millie is nuts. Even crazier that Neil and Alex both north of that 50% number. And then Alex went full crazy on Jamal Williams, 97%.
Wow. I have no problem with that. One more thing, though, Josh. Eclipsing that price or that ownership when you're like $8,000 is even wild. It'd be different if it was Jamal Williams or Gio Bernard or something, right? But you're getting there at $7,900 at 50%.
That's the part that's really interesting to me. Like looking at my exposures, I played a lot of Kamara. Like I had 35%. He was my third highest owned guy, but I was under the field because he was 8K and 50% owned.
Great. What else we got?
Yeah, Jamal Williams, second most owned in the Millie, 37%. Neil was north of that number. Alex had him in 97%. That all makes perfect sense to me. Neil was over on Washington D. Alex came in under. That piece doesn't surprise me at all. I would have been very surprised to see Alex come in north on a defense in this particular case. And then this is when Alex started fading all of the public. Kareem Hunt, Adams, McLaurin, Bernard, Galladay, Murray, Kelsey. I mean, he's pretty much massively under the field on all of those guys, whereas Neil, other direction, over the field on Hunt, over the field on Adams, and then he starts coming in under on McLaurin, Bernard, Galladay, Murray.
It is insane to me that this week ended up being like at the top, ultimately more chalky than last week.
I mean, honestly, it's like Jamal Williams has a lot to do with that.
A ton. Yeah, a ton. And then by playing a dirt cheap guy like Williams or a 22% owned Gio Bernard, Adam, it allows you to get to more Alvin Kamara and more Devontae Adams. So it kind of, it one affected the other for sure in this case.
Yeah, definitely. Going the other thing about allocating a lot of exposure to cheap players is that there's fewer guys normally in that price range that have similar ranges of outcomes. So you can kind of go overweight on those cheap guys like Jamal Williams and then spread out your exposure amongst the more expensive guys where there's a lot of guys with similar ranges of outcomes. You can be going overweight on that are low owned. It's easier to make those contrarian moves at that price point than it is the cheaper one.
Josh, we had a 56 DraftKings point game. We had a 48. We had a 2 41s. We had a 39.86, 38.64, 35.92, 30. Like the list goes on. It's remarkable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think 13 players had 30 plus DraftKings points.
The Tyler Lockett game is just truly insanity. 20.
I know you fell
20
asleep.
Targets. 20
I know.
Targets.
I on a team that doesn't even pass that much.
15 for 203 TDs. And it wasn't even the most interesting thing that happened in that game.
That game, when it started getting late, I had a few lineups in contention in the afternoon slate. And I had Murray at quarterback with Lockett. And then I had Hopkins and Kirk, and pretty much like all of them. And then Metcalf almost scores in overtime. He does score, and they call it back on a holding. And all I'm thinking over the last quarter of this game and in overtime is, just please throw it to Tyler Lockett. I can't have anybody else really popping off, especially Metcalf. And Russell Wilson, you're right, the 20 targets, all he did, every single time he threw the ball, it felt like he went to Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, you don't see, how often do you see someone get 20 plus targets?
Very rarely, especially given that Wilson threw 50 times, which is, still a very high number for him, but that's still a 40% target share.
It's totally crazy. Can we talk about Metcalf for a second?
Please.
That's one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
The chase down?
Yeah, it's like he was on fast forward.
It was one of the best plays I've seen all season. That's not hyperbole. I really mean that. I watched it 20 times in a row.
There was
he was going the wrong direction, had to stop, turn, and take off against a guy that had all of his momentum and is so much smaller than him and chased him down.
There was like a 10-yard stretch where all of a sudden he cut the distance into like a third, and I don't know how he did it. A couple of his strides looked like they were just hitting each 5-yard marker.
I know. You see him blow past Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson just stops running. And Metcalf, and it was crazy. It was like he tracked his prey because he got behind him and he waited for the right opportunity. He didn't take a reckless shot at. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Like he got behind him and lined him up before making a perfect technique tackle.
I just don't totally understand how that was even possible. I didn't think it was possible to make up that much distance on a football field.
And didn't the Cardinals go for it on 4th down and miss it?
Well, now I have no idea.
I can't
I just
remember.
watched somebody run really fast. Other than that, I don't know anything about the second half
I
of that
stepped
game.
away from the game for a few minutes. I missed that. Come back, obviously. Adam, do you remember that? Because he put him down at like the 10-yard line. I feel like they went for it, and the chat can tell us if you don't remember.
So I didn't watch the game at all. So I'm not sure.
Okay. It was the best game of the season. It's the best game of the season.
Yeah, I was watching the baseball game.
But
I was watching.
I watched the baseball game too. By the way, you look like Dustin May if you had long hair.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't have red hair.
If you had long red hair, you would look like Dustin May. I'm telling you, I saw it. I took a picture. I was going to tweet it.
There's no way that's a compliment, by the way.
No, man, he's a great pitcher. What's the?
I love that all you're like, yeah, his skill set at something else is great.
Right.
The stuff he does that has no relation to you is awesome.
He's not an appealing man to look at.
No, I'm really just joking.
This is just Lofty trying to get back for years of Davis Bertans comparisons.
Yeah, that's the worst comp ever. Like
Why?
That's worse.
No, Dustin May is a much worse comp here.
Yeah, but I'm very handsome.
Are you talking about worse in terms of he's uglier than Davis Bertans, or worse as in I look nothing like Dustin May and Lofty looks like Davis Bertans?
Both.
I don't look like. I look nothing like Davis Bertans. Like nothing at all. Like
you should aspire to look like him then.
Oh, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well,
if he could have my looks, he'd take them in the blink of an eye, even with the cigarette smoking.
If he had your looks, he'd get paid $20 million less this year.
Sorry?
If he had your looks, he'd get paid $20 million less this offseason.
Yeah, but he'd be getting paid from, GQ or something. So what
is he going to get, a Newport deal on the outside? What are we talking about here?
Oh, man, if they still did those billboards, I'd be crushing it. Just life would be made. I'd be living out in Beverly Hills, posted up on every Newport. What was their
you think I'm talking about Newport, California, don't you?
No, of course not. I'm saying I'd be living out there because I'd be rolling in it and I'd be doing Newport smokes. Yeah. No, I thought you were saying that I should go to Newport.
Yeah, Newport, California has tons of billboards everywhere.
Exactly.
Probably not even allowed to have them.
Probably not. But just a monster overall scoring game.
Yeah.
Scoring slate. What I love to do, Jess, to close this show out is see what we've got as far as the top performers in relation to their ownership. Were there any super low-owned plays that came up huge for Week 7 slate?
Yeah, that would be Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, I had a good amount of him on the afternoon slate, and I talked to Matt Gajeski about it this morning. I was kind of surprised he came in with 0% ownership when they didn't have there was the JaMychal Hasty conversation and like Jerick McKinnon, but we've seen Jeff Wilson get opportunities before. So I was honestly a little bit surprised by that for a 4 or 5 game slate.
I didn't come close. Yeah, I'll say I didn't play tournaments on that slate, so I don't know what I would have done. In the main slate, obviously, I had no interest in going that route, but it was surprising to me that like everyone just anointed JaMychal Hasty as the guy,
right?
Because of what he had done the week before when Jeff Wilson wasn't active. It was really
garbage time, by the way.
Right. Yeah, it was. Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, he was getting first and second down carries ahead of McKinnon after Mostert got hurt, but I still thought that had more to do with McKinnon than was some sort of statement that no matter what, Hasty's the guy now. It was, I think kind of that's more of even a season-long take than it had to do with DFS. Like Jeff Wilson, I was never getting there regardless, but like people in season-long were just going crazy to get Hasty and just ignoring that Jeff Wilson was coming back.
For sure.
47 total lineups in the Millie.
Now, to be clear, I didn't have any of him on the main slate. That was like impossible to get to because what was really the point? But
two different people had him in 2 separate lineups. One person finished third and won $100,000 with him.
Wow.
Talk about hitting your bullet.
I think the $12 single entry afternoon slate, Josh.
Ooh.
I don't think the winner had Jeff Wilson on the afternoon slate.
Do you see the lineup for the third place guy in the Millie? Took the 0 with Darren Fells at tight end?
No way.
Yeah.
What was his lineup? Okay, Joe Burrow, Jamal
ahead.
Williams, Jeff Wilson. He had Devontae Adams, Tyler Boyd, Tyler Lockett, Darren Fells with the goose egg, and Alvin Kamara with the Chiefs.
I mean, is that a 300? What did what's his nuts from the Browns finish with?
Harrison Bryant?
Yeah.
21 or something.
21, 22.
So he would have been just shy of 300 if he has Bryant in that lineup.
Wow. And that's clearly a hand-built lineup. He's got Kamara in the flex spot over Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
yeah, that wouldn't have come out of it wouldn't have come out of Fantasy Cruncher. That much I can tell you. I don't know about those other shady, terrible optimizers.
Correct. But yeah, they would never put a 1 p.m.er in the flex and a 4 in the running back spot. So
did he play? How much did this guy play? Single bullet. Holy hell.
Definitely hand built.
Yeah, single bullet, 0 at tight end. All he needed was 3 fantasy points out of any tight end that he could play to win $1 million.
Oh my God. So second and third place were both single entry, single bullets?
Yep.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
Wow.
Missed out on $1 million for bageling tight end.
That's crazy. That's you know what? Sometimes it happens. That's just the nuttiest thing ever. I'm looking to see if there were any other low-end guys. Like quarterbacks, just look at this. Of the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, of the top 7 scorers, you had Herbert, Murray, Brady, Burrow, Wilson. 2 through 7, Josh, were all quarterbacks.
That's nuts.
And so is 10, Baker Mayfield.
By the way, we haven't touched on it yet. I'm sorting it down to the top 1% from the Millie. The essential pieces. Tyler Lockett is in 82% of the top 1%. Jamal Williams, 71. Washington football team, 64%. We got close enough. Devontae Adams, Alvin Kamara, Kyler Murray, the other 3 that are north of 50%.
Okay. Yeah. Going into that Sunday night football game, you're thinking, I don't know if Murray's going to be able to get it done just based on, or Wilson getting it done just based on what some of these other quarterbacks did. And it turned out that he absolutely did. But unlike Justin Herbert, who had a bit more fantasy, 0.37 more fantasy points than him, Adam, unlike Herbert, Murray actually threw to guys that we played in lineups with him.
Yeah, that's obviously nice. One point, and it kind of got brought up on Twitter today that I agree with, is that there's obviously value in playing quarterbacks where there's a higher likelihood that that you're going to get correct who he's throwing to. That being said, though, there's still going to be some randomness. I mean, it's not like when you look at Justin Herbert, you had serious concerns that he was going to just throw it to Purnell, whatever the hell his name is, Virgil Green and
Guyton
all game. Like there's still obviously that randomness risk. So I don't think it really applied to him, but just kind of a long-term strategy. You do want to keep in mind like the likelihood of actually getting the correct receivers with your quarterback.
Right. Yeah. And in the case of Herbert, man, that was tilting. Every time they score, because I wasn't watching that game, I'd go and I'd check, like, oh, they scored another touchdown. And it was one of those that helps no one type of games, but it is what it is. James Robinson was 1.9% owned, Josh.
22 carries for 119 and a touchdown, 4 catches, another 18 yards and a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Hit for the cycle, I guess. Just needed to return a kick.
Crazy. Tyler Lockett too. This is kind of crazy. He had 11 more fantasy points about 8.4 more fantasy points than the next closest player. Only 10% owned. So that really was not that popular of a play.
No, not really. And it's a monster number. I think I saw that it's the highest fantasy scoring day since Will Fuller last year.
Wow. I believe it. Deontay Johnson, 5% at 4,200. Jeff Wilson, 0% at 4K, the minimum. There were some cheap plays to go off here for sure. Like DeAndre Hopkins had almost 30 fantasy points, and he's outside the top 10.
Jeff Wilson being in 47 lineups total is bonkers.
Nuts. It's and kind of another thing too, from what Adam pointed out earlier. It wasn't just a lot of the good guys that went on. Scotty Miller had 26 fantasy points at 0.3% ownership. Nelson Aguilar had 25 at 0.4% ownership. The list goes on. I'm sure I can find plenty more guys here. Chase Edmonds, 21.5 at 0.5% ownership. There's just some crazy, crazy games.
Yeah.
Rashard Higgins even had 20.
Peoples-Jones, I think, had like 18 too.
Didn't he have 2 touchdowns?
Maybe. I know he's on my bench in Nixon's Dynasty League.
All in all, pretty crazy week.
Yeah.
And it's fun to break it down with you guys. We appreciate it. Hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so. Again, it is a huge help to us. And I'll let Josh do the standard call for likes, because that might be one area when it comes to hosting that he's better than me at. So I figure I'll give that to him.
Hit the like button, everybody.
Come on, man.
How'd I do, man? See, sometimes you got to flip
Still
it.
better than Loppy.
Yeah, sometimes you got to flip it. I can't give the same spiel if you're going to lead me in like that. I'll go the opposite direction.
You know why I did that, right? Because
you didn't
I
want
listened to the morning show, and I heard you say, coming up next is Alex Baker, Ben Rossa. You said all these great things. And then N. Laffy, who is just, and I quote, just some guy. So that's not lost on me, fella.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's
like
where it's coming from. That's where this hostility is coming from.
Hit that like button, everybody. That way we can get Laffy a participation ribbon for being second at getting likes.
Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that thumbs up before you go. We'll see you back here. Remember, you use that promo code PUMPKIN. It's good till the 31st. Get you an Awesemo Plus Platinum NFL Weekly for $10.31. It's almost $20 off the actual original price. It's an awesome deal. You'll love it. And if you don't, well, it's $10 and you'll live. But you will. And when you do, head over to our premium Slack chat. Check it out. Say what's up. We got people talking sports, DFS, betting, everything all day long. There's no better place to be. Join that Awesemo family. And hey, while you're at it, follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS on Twitter, Josh at Josh Engleman, myself, Loppy_D, LOUGHY_D, and Awesemo at Awesemo_com. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you back here soon.